it is done, you should be able to get hold of the recording pretty much as a link from Grace tomorrow morning. Anything which comes up, please let me know. And what we will do is take things from there. And the idea there is to give you a full insight into how the course is going to be run, what are the key things that you need to be aware of. And I know that some of you are looking at doing this course primarily for the purposes of further admissions to university, in some cases for job. So the idea would be to try and share information on both the aspects with you as we go along in our discussions. So what I'll do is let me share the screen again. And what I would then do is basically start off with the systems demo. Is that okay? You're able to hear me clearly? You're able to see my screen? And there is no distortion in voice, anything like that? Good stuff. So my name is Raman Singh. I'm the principal and director at UK Versity, but you'll get to see me obviously during the couple of sessions or occasions that I would do at some point in time with regards to your course. So let's start off with the website, because this becomes more or less the starting point of pretty much everything in terms of you having access to the course, going to say, for example, raise a query, or if you have any questions. My suggestion would be to bookmark the site and bookmark it to your browser by clicking on this option, which is on the left, and then dragging it to your bookmark bar. So that way, what happens is you have, at a click of a button, access to the website at any given point in time. Now, a lot of people call it the website. We call it the digital campus. The reason is that this would pretty much answer 95% of your questions without any human intervention. Now, there are a couple of things on the homepage that I want to draw your attention towards. One is that it's very easy to get in touch with us, and pretty much we respond almost, I would say, instantly. So if you look at this purple banner, which is on the homepage itself, just under the main banner, you would have a email address, which is admin@UKversity. Now, this is a monitored mailbox. You can get access to 24/7 answers or any queries that you have related to your course. You can send us an email and you'll pretty much get a response almost instantly. We have a college switchboard, and there are 20 lines on it. There are 9 people at the end of these lines. So assuming you give us a call between Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 p.m., you should be able to speak to any one of us, in the college itself. We also have a WhatsApp. I think it's become a norm that people now use social media. So we've integrated WhatsApp into the website, and you are added to the WhatsApp group of the course. So should you have any very pressing questions, say, for example, anything that you get stuck with, or at any given point in time, sometimes when I'm studying, or, if you need immediate help, you can also raise questions or queries through that particular route. Now, one of the things that if you do not, for example, it does not happen, but assuming if you do not get a response to something that you've asked, maybe within an hour or so, then you can also do a quick chat with us through the website, and that is basically chat with us. When you click on chat with us as an option, what will happen is that it'll launch a new window, and here, using artificial intelligence, we have added a good number of 1 million lines in terms of codes on the back of the website, which allows you to ask any sort of questions, and the AI part of it answering questions on behalf of UK Versity. So if you think of any questions that you want to ask, let's try this out. Any question that you think of now, as of now, which comes to your mind?
Okay, how can I submit my assignment?
So if I ask this question, how can I submit my assignment? And you press enter. In a couple of seconds, it will give you the answer that assignment submissions are normally done to email, which is at Learnerwork UK Versity. These are the steps that you need to follow, and that should allow you to receive an acknowledgement receipt. And at the end of it, in 3 to 5 working days, you'd get a response from the assessor, which will obviously give you feedback on your work, and also a final grade. If there is nothing missing, no changes are required, then obviously you'll also get a final assessment and a grade on your assignment. Any other question that you can think of?
Roughly how long should it take to do your assignment?
So how long does it take
for me to do my assignment? Should I take?
Okay, this how long does it take to do an assignment? So generally speaking, what tends to happen is that when you look at studying a particular unit, what will happen is that we recommend. So, for example, you're studying your first unit, which is personal and professional development. This
Yeah.
unit is going to be covered in 4 lectures, which is going to cover 4 learning outcomes. And then the 5th lecture is going to be the lecture on assignment discussion. So on that particular lecture, what will happen is the tutor here, Shazia, is going to discuss the assignment brief, break it down in terms of how you would go about doing the assignment. There is a sample assignment which is also available or will be available on Moodle as the unit completes. And that would give you an idea in terms of having a look at if you were to submit an assignment, how would that look like? Now, generally speaking, once we deliver the unit, for example, you've started on the PPD unit yesterday. So you've had lecture 1 and lecture 2, which is LO1, LO2. Next week, you'll have LO3, LO4. And a week after that, you'll cover the assignment discussion on Saturday. On Sunday, you'll have a LO1, which is going to be a next lecture for the next unit. Now, once we finish the unit, we normally expect learners to submit the assignment within 2 weeks of completion of that unit. Although there is no hard and fast rule, but because you're studying with us through live lectures and because these units are continuous and in terms of delivery, it is, I would say, recommended that you don't leave your assignment submission to a later date or time, because then sometimes we tend to forget and you have to revisit and go back into recordings and re-look into it for the purposes of compiling and evidencing your work for marking and checking. So the short answer to your question is, I would suggest once the unit is complete and you've had the assignment discussion session, you should be able to submit the work in about 2 weeks' time for that particular unit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, the other thing obviously we recommend is that while you are studying with us through live lectures, although the lectures tend to be about 45 minutes to an hour long, and we cover only the learning outcomes, it is still advisable that you put in about an hour or two at least after the lecture or before the lecture to read into some of the other handouts and documents that we have provided up on Moodle. And that would help you go into a bit of depth of what is being covered in the lecture in terms of the PowerPoint slides. Sometimes you're going to see under the PowerPoint slides, there are going to be additional handouts and, articles or journals, or I would say essentially PDF documents that we will provide. And they would be generally provided because we would want you to look at additional reading. And in some cases, it's difficult for us to cover pretty much everything in that lecture using a slide or using PowerPoint slides. That's why those would be recommended additional reading, and they would also be useful as documents when you do your assignment. So we are not expecting you to go to Google or go to other places to cut, copy, and paste, but you would have a lot of reading material which will be available, which will help you primarily put your evidence together in the form of assignment, which does away with similarity and plagiarism. Is that okay?
Okay.
So this website is a great source in terms of asking questions. There is somebody in the background. There are new questions which are asked every day by learners. And what we also do is we train it in the sense that they would give you, when you do ask a question, I think somebody ended up asking a question that if I ask you something in Spanish, would you reply in Spanish? So we have a multicultural or a language pack available, and we implemented that pack. It also replied or responded in Spanish. So there are bits and pieces that this is being trained into, and that is why we say this is for us a digital campus. And sometimes you just want to get on with work and you don't want to speak to anybody and you want to ask a quick question, get a quick answer. I think that will be the best place again to start with, in terms of going to the website and having a quick chat with us. Now, the second part, we're not having any issues in terms of joining on Zoom. So what we do every time when you join Zoom sessions, we have lots of logins on Zoom. And obviously each tutor has their logins. We see all the sessions which are scheduled. So if I need to look at giving you a session schedule, normally Jill would send across invites to you for a particular unit. And these invites typically go across to you in an email, and they will have a summary of all the session codes and dates and times on which these sessions are going to happen. So my only request on that side would be sometimes we do have an issue wherein you're not able to join the session or you're waiting for the tutor to accept you into the session. This could be because of the fact that you may have by error clicked on a session invite, which is different for that particular day, and the session would have started somewhere else, but you are still waiting in a virtual room to be accepted into the session. So these session invites typically go across to all the learners who are on the health and social care course. As you can see, this session invite is for the PPD unit, and obviously it has session dates, times, meeting invites, passcodes. And what you have to be very particular about is obviously add them to your click on the right ones when you're attending the session. You can also register, because when you click on this invite, it'll ask you to register for the session, and then you can keep adding them to your calendar on your phone, whether it's an iPhone, Android phone, and that would mean that you should be able to get hold of these session invites on the day of the lecture as well. Now, we also post these invites on the WhatsApp group. And the reason of posting this on the WhatsApp group is essentially sometimes our lives are quite busy, we forget. So on that particular day in the morning, just before the lecture starts, the tutor would essentially go in and, put a quick message to say good morning, or, put the meeting code in so that you're able to click on that and also join. Now, and even if you still don't manage to get into the sessions and obviously still have problems, my suggestion would be to message, the tutor on that group, and that would mean that they would be able to, accept you into the session as soon as you join. And that would be one of the cases of, I think one of the reasons why we moved from WebEx and Join Me to Zoom is because during COVID, everybody became familiar with the usage of Zoom. And it is a very simple software. All you have to do is click on the link, and that should allow you to join the session pretty much like you've joined today. Now, on the website itself, there is, if you scroll down to the bottom or the footer of the website, there is a link to our YouTube channel. When you click on the social media icons, that should essentially allow you to go to the YouTube channel. Now, when you're on the YouTube channel, essentially, the reason why we ask you to look at the YouTube channel is because this is a way wherein we are able to put out all our lectures predominantly, straight away on YouTube. It's a free space or a free repository, and it allows you to get access to the lectures without having to log into Moodle. Now, because there are over 10,000 lectures, we have opened about 4,000 of them in the public domain. You would need to find the playlist. So one part is, I would suggest you go and subscribe for the duration that you're actually doing the course with us. And then if you are looking at lectures for your particular unit, go into the playlist on the top. And from the playlist, my suggestion would be to go and search, because we run 166 courses. All of them are at level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and even 8, leading to MPhil. So what you have to do is find the healthcare management playlist. And as you can see here, when I click on that playlist, there are in excess of 400 videos, and they are from different lecturers and obviously for different units. They are named accordingly. So they would be named according to ATHE, which is the name of your body, awarding body. It'll also then be followed by a level, which is L3 or L4 or L5 or L6 or L7. So in your case, it is level 3. And then diploma DI, diploma in health and social care management. And when you click on the units, you'll be able to see the lectures which are, predominantly related to your units in particular. Now, there are lectures that you can sort out, because they are lectures, that we do every 3 months. This course is repeated. And obviously, my session would be when you're reading in or listening into the lectures, you should be looking at the latest lectures or links to the latest lectures from the YouTube channel. Now, apart from this, the main, purpose from which you're going to get most of the training and teaching and training material or learning material, that would be coming to you from Moodle. Now, this is the main hub, and I'm logged in as the administrator. So administrator for the Moodle is Andy, but I'm going to log in today as an administrator simply because I want to show you the ins and out of the system. So I'll start from the scratch. This particular system and the link to the system is a subdomain on the website. Again, I would suggest that you bookmark this website by dragging it to your bookmark bar so that you don't forget the URL and you have it at a click of at the click of a button. Now, when you're in on the Moodle website, you have to have what is called a username, which is always in small letters, and the password, which is always case sensitive. Now, if you ever forget your username and password, there is no human intervention required. and it is able to send you a reset link pretty much instantly from the system. All you have to do is click on this option of forget your username and password. When you click on that, it will ask you to key in your email address. Now, when you key in your email address and click search, it will by default send you a reset link. When you click on it, it should allow you to set a new password and go back onto Moodle pretty much straight away. Now, when I log into the system, you are going to go across to your dashboard. Now you can customize your dashboard. I have got the calendar visible here, but you can customize your dashboard. And how you do that is primarily by switching on the edit button or clicking the option under your name. And here is where you'd be able to go across and see, say, for example, your profile. And when you click on your profile, you'd be able to edit your profile, which will be, in this particular section. It will show you the course that you're doing. And obviously, if there are other bits and pieces that you are interested in getting into, you can go into. Now, the editing of your profile means that you are able to upload a picture. You're not able to change the username or the password you can change, but the username you cannot. But you'll be able to upload a picture. And if you want to write a description about yourself, you should be able to do a description here and drag a photograph if you wish to do so on this particular side. And that will allow you to customize, your profile. So that'll show a picture and it'll basically allow, and once you update your profile, it'll be visible next to your name on the top here. Now, how do you get into your course? Your course, we've got, as I mentioned, lots of courses. So you click on ATHE, and under the ATHE option, you have a drop down, and the course is written in a short form, which is ATHE, which is the awarding body, L3 is the level, and HSC is health and social care, and the version of the course is 2023. That is the version in the year in which actually the course was refreshed by ATHE. So it's a newer version of the course that you're studying. And when I click on this, what it will do is take me into the course. Now, when you go into the course, you're going to go into a section which is going to come up on the top. And this particular section is essentially going to be a generic section of the course, which has some useful documents that you should need and go through. Simply because why they've been uploaded here on the top is because some of these documents you would need to use time and again. For example, if you want to look at the course handbook, that's the first document. Now, because this is a graded qualification, what you're also going to be able to see is that there are something called command verbs, which are basically used to set tasks and activities. So if you have words like explain, describe, assess, compare, evaluate, critically evaluate, these words have a meaning, and how much to write, how much is too much to write, how much is too less to write in order to cover those tasks is all explained in command verbs. There's a learner handbook available from ATHE, and then there are some useful handouts that we have uploaded here in terms of what makes a good assignment, a sample front cover sheet, and declaration of originality, Harvard referencing, plagiarism and malpractice policy, and obviously key personnel and their role at UK Versity. So when you click on PDF documents, all these will show up as all these documents will show up with a bit of a, I would say, a monogram on the left, which will say a PDF or a Microsoft document or a web document. PDF documents, when you click, generally will open up straight away on the system. But Microsoft documents, which could be Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, might be downloading onto your machine. The reason why we have them as set up at this in this way is that we want you to download some documents which could be utilized for doing your assignments or contextualizing and using it as evidence in your assignment. So they would be made available to you as documents which are going to be Microsoft documents. But generally, all the other documents that you will see would be PDFs, including ebooks, including handouts, journals, articles, and presentations. So on the phone, if you open it, everything opens up automatically on the phone. It doesn't download because there is something like a Office file viewer or a file viewer integrated into your application. But on your Mac or on your PC, essentially they will download to your downloads folder or wherever you download them, and they would then need to be opened up manually to be able to go through those documents. Now, under this, what you will also find is the structure in which we have presented most of the material follows a particular format. So you start with Unit 1. There are 6 units. We've labeled them out as Unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First unit would essentially, under the first heading, you would find a sample of that unit. in terms of assignment, you'll have a what is called a unit specification. And then underneath that, you have lectures and recording of those lectures. Now, these are recordings which are predominantly recorded lectures, which are live lectures, and they are replaced every 12 weeks because there's a newer lecture available or the most updated lecture which is available. And you can watch these lectures from within the system by clicking on them, or if you want to see it. So for example, if you want to see them full screen, you can click on this square icon on the right-hand side bottom, and that would allow you to go full screen. Now, should you wish to, the reason of putting these across is that should you wish to watch them at a higher, because these lectures are 35, 45 minutes to an hour long. Sometimes when I watch and I do courses online, I watch them at a slightly higher speed. So you can go up to 1.5 and you're still able to understand what is being discussed in the lecture. So this allows you to go through the lectures in a way wherein the settings for the lectures are also open. Now, sometimes you would see learning outcomes are long enough. And what we do is that we break the lectures down into part 1 and part 2. So for learning outcome 1, as you can see, there are 2 lectures given. And because there was a part 1 and a part 2, and a lot of things were required to be covered, that's why it's been broken down into 2 parts. Now, should you wish to read into the presentation, then click on the PDF document, which is just above the video recording, and that will show you the slides which have been covered in that lecture by the tutor who's essentially covering learning outcome 1. Now, this sort of a layout will follow through for all the units in terms of first starting with LO1, then going to learning outcome 2, learning outcome 3, 4. Towards the end, you'll have the assignment brief and the assignment discussion session. Now, what tends to happen is sometimes we have learners who would ask us about where the assignment brief is and can I see a sample assignment. So if I click on the assignment brief, that is the assignment brief issued by the awarding organization. That is what you would need to attempt at the end of your unit when you've completed it, and it will be consisting of a scenario, and then it'll be followed by tasks that you do. Higher order tasks, which are merit and distinction tasks, are always labeled as extension activities, because sometimes we have learners who do not want to get a higher grade. So what they will do is they'll just do the basic parts of the tasks, which is past tasks, and leave out the extension activities, which would generally require you to extend what you have written in a past task by either taking an example, underpinning the theoretical frameworks, or in some cases, showing applications of what is required for a particular country, or say in this case, an example of a particular country to be taken. And these tasks have to be done in entirety so that you have the opportunity to achieve the highest grade. So task 2 will have other activities, task 3 and task 4. And then towards the end, if you want to look at what is required to be produced, this is normally not given out by centers, but we do it. This is like a bit of a cheat sheet. So if I were to check your assignment, I cannot be checking the assignment because I have my experience and I know what is to be done, but we still need to comply with the awarding body guidelines in terms of understanding what is required to be looked into the assignment. So here is where I call this a bit of a cheat sheet. It'll say very clearly what the learner should actually produce. And this gives you an idea that in these tasks, for me to be able to hit this criteria and achieve this grade, this is what I need to look at in terms of my evidence. So for the learning outcome 1, to cover all the tasks, you have to look at past tasks, merit tasks, and distinction tasks. And sometimes it becomes easier for the learners to look at this also to understand what is required to be covered in the assignment or evidence that I need to produce to be able to meet and achieve the unit. Now, in order to understand how this has to be done, what we also do is, in some cases, we provide sample. If you were a student and if you were required to submit an assignment, this is how the assignment for this particular unit would look like. So this is to give you an idea and an example that if somebody was to look at completing this unit and then submitting an assignment, how the assignment would look like, what all it would contain, how detailed it should be. And this gives you some sort of a reference to say that this is what the output or the evidence of your work would need to be similar to or matching in terms of criterias which would allow you to achieve this particular unit. Now, this form of layout, which is starting with unit 1, would go down into unit 2. Again, the same layout, unit specification, sample assignment, learning outcomes, recordings, then go down to the third unit. So obviously in this unit, this is a smaller credit unit, I think about 5 credits. So there's not, everything has been covered in detail in the presentation, not many handouts to read through. Unit 3, a higher credit unit, a lot of different handouts, including books which are required, which have been integrated into this particular unit. These are traditional academic books that you would need to read a bit more, and there would be 1, 2, 3, or more books if required, and then recorded lectures going down, assignment discussion session, assignment brief, then going to unit 4, again starting with the unit specification, some study material, and here the lectures have not been uploaded, but you will get to see lectures being uploaded. And then unit 5, similar layout. Unit 6, similar layout. So Shazia's lecture of yesterday and today would get replaced here for easy reference, so that when you're studying and you're essentially, you've attended these sessions, they would correspond to the lectures which you have gone through, and they would be visible here. But until they are replaced, they would have the previous lectures. That means the previous delivery, which was done by somebody else, they would be reflected here on this side. And that is how the layout of the course would be when you look at, reading into the course. So the entire course is open. You are able to obviously go into the course, but what you have to do is familiarize yourself on the usage of Moodle, because it is a simple system, but it is displayed and laid out in what is called "what you see is what you get" as an acronym. So what you would essentially do is, at any given point in time, if you need to refer to any presentation, any assignment brief, any handout, anything which the tutor has mentioned, will all be available from this particular system, which is the Moodle. Is that okay?
Okay.
Any questions on this so far?
I do have a question about something I've read on the Moodle. That a pass is 180 and 215 points, a merit is 216 to 269, and a distinction is 270 plus.
Yes.
How many points do you get for each unit?
I will cover that now in a course overview with you.
Okay, thank you.
Because that is an important part, and what I'll do is I'll cover that in the course overview.
Okay, thank you.
So what we've done so far is, if I just take you back to the agenda, so we've covered systems demo in a bit of detail, which includes Zoom, YouTube, Moodle, and UK Versity, which is the website. Let me quickly introduce the team or the people you can reach, when you're obviously studying the course with us. So if I go back just on the website for a minute and go to the About Us section and click on Operations Team. You'll obviously be meeting some of them face-to-face during these sessions, but that's me here. Amrita is the colleague of mine who looks after registrations, and she also coordinates assessments with the different tutors who would be teaching this course. And she will also put together your certification at a later stage when you're almost nearing completion, like you've completed 5 or 6 units. For those of you who have, installment plans, obviously Upen is the person who's the financial controller, and his team, generally ATHE, would be in touch with regards to, reminding you on installments or payment reminders, primarily if the fees is paid, or if not paid and you're on an installment plan. Now, in the administration team, you have Jill. She's the one who is the course coordinator, and she sends across, obviously the Zoom invites, and obviously does the bit of coordination between lecturers and the students to ensure that the lectures are happening week on week, and you are able to, progress in terms of attending those lectures. Gertha is one of the student administrators. She would be in touch with you once in 15 days or in a fortnight to essentially, pick up on things wherein you are either lagging behind, or if you're having issues, problems, you're able to discuss with her. She essentially keeps a tab on your progress in terms of how you're progressing on your course. Things like reminders and assignments, She will chase up assessments if the assessments have not been, sent back by the lecturer, respective lecturer. So she does that bit of coordination in the middle with regards to, the bits in terms of study on your course. Grace obviously looks after the Moodle, and she's obviously, if you need any lectures, any resources, anything which you think is missing or is required, you place a quick request with her, and she would be the one who would place them back on Moodle or, make them available on email to you at any given time. Aman is also one of the course coordinators, and he looks after obviously progress with regards to courses on different sites. So he and Jill are essentially course coordinators. Now, when you look at assessors, people who assess your work, when you send it over, Reena is the lead assessor, but there will be different assessors on the course which will be assessing and obviously teaching and delivering these units. So you have Shazia, which is currently teaching you the professional and personal and professional development unit. You have on the other side, lecturers in health and social care, Daniel, Taj, and then Dr. Anita. She's a qualified doctor, and obviously she's the course leader for health and social care. And she would be obviously teaching and delivering some of the core units like human growth development and working in the health and social care sector. So there are 4 lectures across, health and social care, but there are certain units which are delivered by different people as well, in order for us to be able to make sure that you see at least 2 or 3 people during the course of your studies with us at UK Versity. There are other people as well. So your work is kind of quality assured, and the grades which are accorded, are basically then looked at by the quality manager and the IQAs. And at some stage, once they are accorded, then they are also recorded at our end with Amrita. And then when your final certification happens, you get a bit of a notification just before the certification. And that notification would say, okay, these are the final grades, and these are the tentative, grades that you have achieved, and this is what you are expected to see on your final diploma. Now, we also use, a CRM system in the background. So when we send you any email, anybody in the team is able to see that as a dashboard. So it'll never be a case wherein if I send somebody across an email that, we will need to start from scratch to say, okay, what emails have you got, and have you opened them, have you deleted them, how many times have you opened them? We can see everything in the background. So generally speaking, when these are sent across to you, they are sent across to you from the CRM, and all the colleagues should be able to see them. And that is also helping us to ensure that system wise, because we are online and we are at the cutting edge of using all systems which universities use, we are very prompt on responses, and obviously getting back to you on anything that is required to help you move onto the course. So this is just a snapshot of Joseph's email that we have sent across so far, and these allow you to look at the emails and obviously open them up, and we can see them on our site as well. Now, what I also want to show you is answering and going into the question with regards to grading. What will typically happen is that there are learners which keep completing courses with us every day, and obviously certifications happen irrespective of how your progress is with colleagues which are on the course. So typically, going into the grading part of it, which you've asked as a question, you would have this email come across from before your final certification happens. It'll come across to you from either myself or Amrita, because what we want to make sure is once certification is done, grading cannot be changed. And these grades are, obviously something that we record at our end. And at any given stage, you would be able to find out these grades from Gartha as well, so that if and if you want to look at, obviously improving your grades as you cover each of the units, you have the opportunity to be able to do that. So I will discuss and obviously show you this on the course handbook. So let's go into a bit of a course overview and look at the course handbook, which is the first document on Moodle. Now, when you look at the course handbook, it's a 33-page document, but just very briefly, if I scroll down from page, I think 14 onwards, this has been extracted out and has been uploaded into individual units. So when I talk about unit specification, this is essentially the unit specification. It gives us, this is a document which I as a lecturer use. And this document is also used to prepare presentations and also the teaching and learning material. This is also accessible to you in individual units. And this allows us to understand also how we can teach and deliver the lectures. So as you can see, it's divided into learning outcomes, assessment criteria. And if I scroll down further, what you're able to see is we can't teach you just anything in the unit. It is also prescribed by the awarding body that this is the indicative content which is required to be covered in the unit, so that when you read it, when you go through this with us, you are 100% confident that you are understanding what is required to be read in terms of gaining knowledge and also developing skills related to that subject matter or in that particular unit. Now, so you might want to go through the unit specification, and that's a part of the course handbook, or you would go through them, when lectures actually start, and most lecturers would reference this particular bit at the start of the lecture to say, okay, this is what we're going to cover today. This is the learning outcome, and this is the content that we're going to be hitting in terms of our discussions today. Now, how does it answer and relate to your question of grading criteria? Now, when you look at grading criteria, because this is a qualification which allows you to differentiate your grades, you can achieve a pass, a merit, or a distinction, and that could be for individual units. And depending on how you've scored across the individual units, your overall grade in the qualification could also vary. Now, each of these assessment criteria, learning outcomes are like macro objectives that we have to teach. And within those macro objectives, there are smaller objectives that we have to hit in order to ensure that this is the content and this is what you're learning in each of them when you study the unit. Now, each of these objectives are called the assessment criteria or ACs, and LO is learning outcomes. Now, each of these assessment criteria carry 5 points. So I cannot say that, okay, Jessie is my favorite student or Joseph is my favorite student and I'll give you a distinction. This grading criteria is quite clinical. So at the end of it, when you do your assignments, these assessment criteria get translated into what are called or converted into what are called tasks. And each of these tasks will be labeled or have 5 points. So if I look at past tasks, as you would see, what will happen is if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 tasks here, 4 tasks here, and then 2 and 3. So that is 4 plus 4, 8, plus 2, 10, plus 3, 13. 13 5s are 65. Now, if you do only the pass, then for this unit, you have gained 65 points. And if you do merit in accordance with the tasks given here, then there are 3 or 4 merit criteria. That would mean that you would essentially go into 95 points. And then if you do the distinctions, you will go to 105 points. Now, these are what will be totaled up or tallied into points at the end of when you complete the units, and that would give you an idea in terms of how your grading would be across that unit. So the other thing that you have to keep in mind is different units. If I just take you to this page, which is page 9, which is a summary page, which tells you how many units you're required to study and what are the credits of these units in that particular qualification. So when you look at unit 1, it's 12 credits, unit 2 is 10, unit 3 is 5, unit 4 is 15, and so on and so forth. Now, when I'm looking at calculating your overall grade, how would this work? The overall grade would be, if you score a pass in that unit, that means you've only done the pass criteria, that would be multiplied by your credits into 3, and that would give us a score. Similarly, if you achieve a merit, for example, in a unit, and that has 10 credits as a unit overall, then it will be multiplied by 4. And if you have a distinction, say assuming in unit 4, that has 15 credits, that will be multiplied by 5. Now, if I look at this as a total, at some stage, what will happen is this will tally into what is called the grading criteria. And if I give you an example here by showing you how a student has achieved a distinction overall. So in the first unit, she has done all the tasks, pass, merit, and distinction. The unit has 12 credits. And because it's a distinction, that is multiplied by 5. So that unit, she scores 60 points. In the second unit, again a distinction, third unit, fourth unit. In one of the units, she's only managed a pass. Now, unit 5, if I look at in terms of credits, which is the research unit, has got 10 points. So this will be multiplied by 3, and she only scores 30 points here. And then in unit 6, again, she has a distinction, but that unit has 8 credits multiplied by 5 gives us 40. Now, when I total this up, this gives me an overall total score. And this overall total score, when I look at and I go down to the grading criteria, that informs that how is she going to be graded on the overall qualification. So what you would see is if you have a total score, which is, for example, you have managed a pass in all the units, your score will not exceed 215. And that would mean your overall qualification score will be a pass. If your some units are pass and some are merit, you'd be scoring anywhere between 216 to 269. Your overall grade would move to a merit in the qualification. And say, for example, you have some units which have pass, some have merit, and some have distinction. But depending on the units in which there are higher credits, like unit 4 or unit 5, unit 4, unit 6, and unit 1, then in those cases, you could still meet and get into a distinction because the higher credit units are multiplied by 5, the merits are multiplied by 4, and the passes are multiplied by 3. And when we total them up, you could still achieve an overall merit or a distinction depending on which units you have scored the highest because they are higher credit units. Does that answer your question?
I want to raise a question.
Mm-hmm.
As we are looking at the credits,
Mm-hmm.
what is the pass? What is the merit? And what is the distinction? Just for example, now I did a particular learning a particular unit.
Mm-hmm.
And you, for example, when you are explaining, you said, for example, each subtask is 5 marks, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to achieve the distinction, I need to really follow what is being specified on the decision um on the description tablet to really know, okay, if you want to achieve distinction, this is what you need to do. That's what you are trying to explain, Nesib, right?
So the answer to your question is very simple.
Okay.
If you're looking at achieving a pass, you have to do all the pass tasks.
Okay.
But if you want to achieve a merit, you have to do all the pass plus all the merit tasks.
Okay.
So that means you have to do this and you have to do all the tasks which are given in merit.
Okay. Okay.
And if you want to achieve a distinction, you have to do everything which is given in all the 3 tasks, pass, merit, and distinction.
Okay. Okay.
How do I relate this to the assignment brief? If I show a parallel document by opening it separately and just keep this on the side, just to draw a bit of a comparison, and I'm going to show, I hope you're on a laptop, but I'm going to open up, the full screen. Just give me 1 second.
All right.
So I've got a 49-inch monitor. So if I share my full screen now, what you're going to see is these documents side by side. So this particular document is Unit 6, which is unit specification, or as we call it, US. And this document is assignment brief on the right-hand side, which is basically called AB. Now, if you see each learning outcome gets translated into what is called a task. So if there are 4 learning outcomes in this particular unit specification, there'll be 4 tasks that you will be required to do to cover the assignment. Sometimes assessment criteria are combined. So in this case, if you look at task 3 and 4, task 3 and 4 are combined here in task 3. There are some assessment criteria covered here, and some assessment criteria of task 4 are covered in task 2. Now, the reason why this happens in the assignment brief is that what we want to be able to do is we want to test your knowledge that you've gained from the skills. And when we design the tasks and write the assignment brief, we write it in such a way that it follows through. I don't want you to go chronologically to basically attempt all the tasks. I would club them together to say where they are required for evidence, and that evidence can be extended because you're already doing a task. And in such cases, you would find the assignment briefs to sometimes have lesser number of tasks as compared to learning outcomes. So if I open, say, another assignment brief, say of this time, research unit, and I look at the research unit here, you see that research unit has learning outcome 1, 2, and 3. And if I go into the research unit, you have task 1, you have task 2, task 3, and task 4. So here, because the content in some of the tasks requires more evidence, we have in fact, added a task apart from the 3 learning outcomes. You have 3 learning outcomes, but we've added another task and we've split the assessment criteria, in a separate task in this particular unit. But how would you see that these tasks are exactly the same as written in the assessment criteria? If I look at comparing, for example, a particular assignment, just looking at Unit 6, because you're studying Unit 6 right now, and if I look at the wordings here in task 1, it says bullet point 1 says write an outline of range of careers. You would see this exactly the same. Not a single word has changed. But what we've done is we've given you a scenario to assume. And with that scenario to assume, you've been asked to do certain tasks. Sometimes it is easier for us to assume that, okay, this is what is required to be done. This is the background. And then you go into doing the task. That is what you would see in the assignment brief. But if you ask me honestly, there is no difference between the unit spec given here and the assignment brief given here. It is just that we put a bit of meat on bones to say, this is the background, this is the scenario, look at this, and then go about doing the task. Rather than just be saying that, can you outline careers in a job and job roles in health and social care? Now, if I tell you, sometimes if you are a learner with experience and you're working within the sector, you would understand the question and you might be able to get on with it. But if you have no experience, or probably you're new and you're taking up this qualification as a student, as an academic qualification, then having to give you a bit of a background and then allowing you to do the task might make it easier for you to do so. And that's the difference between the assignment brief and the unit specification. If I look at the second task, it says explain progression within a chosen field of your career. It is exactly the same wording given here. The third part, it says identify standards relating to this, because we are talking about careers, healthcare careers, career progression. So we have left out this task because this would be relevant when I cover it in a different learning outcome. What we have done is, this is relevant to this part. So 2.1 is labeled here, and you can see this is exact wording as this one at 2.1 here. 1.3 we'll pick up when we look at your skills, and that will go into learning outcome, I would say 3 or task 3, wherein it is talking about reflective practice. It is much more related to analyzing your skills and knowledge in a specific career. And because you're doing a bit of reflection, that is why this task has been asked to be done with learning outcome 3, and that is where you would see this reflecting here. So this is the bit that you have to be careful about when you do the assignments, that when I look at grades and I look at achieving the highest possible grade, reason being, getting the highest possible grade is important, because when you look at UCAS tariff, for those who are in the UK and wanting to apply to university after this, getting a higher grade would mean more tariff points as far as the qualification is concerned. The other bits would be that sometimes I'm going to be intelligent and I look at this way, that I have a unit which is, for example, unit 3, which is human growth development. Let me just scroll here. This particular unit, human growth development, carries only 5 credits and it has 4 learning outcomes. And some of the learning outcomes are quite detailed. Now, I might decide that, okay, I need to only get a pass in this unit because there's a lot of work to be done. And because at the end of it, I'm looking at covering the other units in a great amount of detail, maybe getting merits and distinctions. Even if I get a pass here, it will not alter my score overall, simply because the number of credits of this unit, even if I get distinction, 5 multiplied by 5 credits is 25. If I get a merit, 5 multiplied by 4 is 20. If I get a pass, it's 15. So my grades would only change by 10, 15 to 25. So I can be a bit more lenient in terms of doing this unit. And that could be one of the perspectives that you look at when you look at looking at the units and the credits and how they will affect your overall grading.
Okay.
Is that okay? Any questions on this so far?
No.
Okay.
It's good, thank you.
Okay. Now, the other bits that you are going to look at in the course overview and the course handbook, which is going to be useful, is that if you're not familiar with the awarding organization, ATHE is Awards for Training and Higher Education. So ATHE stands for there's a bit of a background information that you can get about the awarding body, why the qualification was written, what is the off-call qualification number, the credits of the qualification, the basic skills that you will develop hopefully towards the end, by when you have completed the qualification, and bits and pieces related to entry requirements and plagiarism, malpractice, bits and pieces in terms of progression would be something that you will find in the course handbook. They are available from pages 4 on 13. And it could be a good read, which I suggest most learners that you could probably download this on your phone or your tablet or PC or your Mac, and then do a bit of bedside reading just to familiarize yourself with the qualification, grading criteria, and some of the bits related to progression, which are given on pages 7, 8, 9, up to page 13. This is a good page to get a bit of a summary. You might want to print this out, pin it up on your, on your study room, in your room, whatever it is, simply because it tells you what units you have covered, what units have what credits, and how they would affect your grade overall towards the end. But apart from that, I think main bits that you have to be careful about, if I take you back to Moodle, would be the bits which I suggest related to, I would say, plagiarism in AI nowadays, because of the fact that all awarding bodies are clearly stressing on the fact that when you do your assignment, when you do write your portfolio, it has to be written by yourself. Up to 20% similarity is allowed, but anything over and above that essentially would mean that you would be needing to paraphrase, and you would obviously have your grades only capped at pass. So this is something that you need to read through, which is given in the plagiarism and malpractice policy. And this policy, has been revised last year in April to include, the use of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT in particular, and there are lots of other softwares which are available. So you need to stay clear of that. All I would suggest that you do is, AI is good. When I look at answering or asking questions, in my case, for example, my kids have a Amazon Alexa in the home, and it is such a useful device. When I was growing up, there was nothing like this, but having that in the room allows you to ask so many questions. You have spontaneous answers which come across, and it allows you to do away with every time to go and open up a PC or a laptop and ask a question. So you're able to ask questions from ChatGPT, and it gives you good answers, and obviously gives you insight and information into it. You can use it for the purposes of creating a draft document. But at some stage, what will also happen is that when we do get your assignments, all the assignments that we get are scanned for plagiarism and also are scanned for AI detection. And what tends to happen is, if you do find any assignment, like I mentioned to you in this case, of a particular learner, the grades for a particular unit were marked down to pass because of the fact that, there was similarity, and it was shown very clearly that the assignments were written using, or there was some use of AI in that particular assignment. So what will happen in some cases is you would get, let's put it this way, you would basically get back a report from us every time you submit an assignment. And that report essentially would be a report which will clearly scan for plagiarism and also for AI detection. Now, this report, when you get from us, would also trigger an email to you, and this is over 20%, so 40% of it is generated through AI. What will happen is you will get an email back from us, and that email would allow you to then sign on to an AI writer, which is with ChatGPT. And that writer will show you exactly what all contents of your report are actually written using AI. And what you would need to then do is follow the instructions on the report, which are given in the last page, and they would then allow you to paraphrase the assignment to do away with the similarity. Now, paraphrasing would happen wherein you read something and write it in your own words, and in some cases, you would need to use Harvard referencing. If it is a theoretical framework, or there are models, or there are definitions that you have used, then you would need to obviously put them in inverted commas and reference it, and that would do away with the similarity on that document. So these would be coming to you as reports. If we do find that they are over 20% and it says that it is AI generated, you would get a report like I'm showing you one on the screen. But if your assignments are fine and they do not have any similarity or plagiarism, then you would not get them essentially, because they are written within the context of meeting the guidelines for I would say the assignment guidelines which are set by the awarding body. Now, if I quickly take you into the last part, which is the assessment and feedback process, how that works. Now, basically what will happen is there is something called an assignment submission guideline, which is available on Moodle that you will be able to see. And this assignment submission guideline is a particular document that we have created primarily for the purposes of ensuring that when you do submit assignments, you are particularly taking care of certain areas or aspects of it which keep you away from, I would say, similarity and plagiarism. So if I just briefly show that to you offline, this particular document that you see here, if I move this slightly to the top underneath that, and if I click on this assignment submission guidelines, these are bits that you need to be going through when you submit an assignment. It's a 5 or 6 slide presentation which talks and mentions that please be aware of the malpractice and AI detection policy. These are the bits that you have to look at when you submit your assignment. And if I just magnify this slightly, one is you need to fill up a declaration of originality. Now, declaration of originality is something which is a document which you fill in, and there's a Word document I'll show you in a second. That document will be submitted along with every assignment, which basically says your name, your registration number, the unit that you're submitting the assignment for, and then you have a number of tick boxes that you check to say that this is your own work, you have not colluded with anybody, you have not used an assignment writer, software, or a mill or anybody else to do your work, and the work that you have submitted is fully referenced and non-plagiarized. Obviously, in your assignment cover page, you write your name, the unit name, and obviously that would be a part of structuring your work in terms of assignment. Now, if you're using the assignment brief and you are digressing from the scenario given, then best thing in that case would be to also introduce an introduction. And this is allowed is because of the fact that we have a lot of mature learners who study the qualification. They have 10, 15, 20 years of work experience. They can bring their experience into the work, into the assignment essentially, or the portfolio that they're developing. But sometimes it is useful for the assessor to read into an introduction to say, okay, I'm working as a health and social care worker with the NHS for the last 3 years. So I'm going to be bringing in some examples and using work related examples to do my tasks. And that would be a useful information so that when we do assess and mark your work, we know where and why you've included them as examples and not followed the assignment scenario. Make sure that you're writing the assignment in third person. You're not using I and we, but using third person in particular, because that is the art and the skill that you need to develop at level 3, which is to learn to write academically and be able to reference work using the Harvard referencing style. There are certain do's and don'ts, which we normally recommend in the assignment, is that if you're writing over 5,000 words, then you should be wary of the fact that there should be alarm bells ringing saying, am I writing too much? Writing too much would also mean that you're inviting and increasing similarity. That would mean you need to reference more of your work. So most assignments tend to be between 3,500 to 4,500 words. Even if you're looking at achieving distinction, these assignments should not go beyond 5,500 words. Most university assignments would, when you do go to uni at a later stage, they will be capped at 3,500 words plus minus 10%. So this is just a bit of a benchmark that we want to mention in terms of word limit, so that you are aware that you are not exceeding that, because that would put you into the way of increasing similarity, in some cases also plagiarism. Now, all work is submitted at learner work, and normally a turnaround time in terms of feedback on the work that you've submitted tends to be 5 to 7 working days at the max, generally 3 to 5 days in which you get the feedback. Now, when you do submit work on this particular email address, you get an acknowledgement receipt saying that your work has been received and it has been going to be marked by the lecturer. So none of your assignments when you submit gets lost or gets into a black hole. It definitely goes to the teacher or the tutor who's essentially teaching that particular unit, and they would be the ones who assess your work. Obviously, this is a declaration of originality. This is how it looks like. This is something available on Moodle, and we have signposted that. I will show you that in a second, and you should be able to download this as a Word document so that you fill it once and you can keep submitting it again and again every time you submit the assignment. And obviously, bits and pieces that we want you to go through in terms of structuring your assignment, formatting your assignment, making sure some of the best practices of introduction, conclusion are done when you are submitting work, and also mention very clearly what grade you're trying to achieve in the assignment when you send an email to learner work. The reason we say this is because if you are trying to only achieve a pass, there's no point in me giving you feedback to say that you have not done the extension activities, or would you be attempting those activities at a later stage. So the idea here is, if you mention that in the email that I would like to achieve a pass or achieve a merit or distinction, then the feedback and the assessment that we do is going to be commensurate to helping you achieve that grade. If we do feel that the work is not meeting the criteria when you submit it first time, we will ask you to make changes, amend it, and those would be guidelines given to you as annotation on the Word document, to allow you to understand why this has not been achieved and what needs to be added in order to achieve that particular task and thereby achieving that grade. So assignment submission is important because it'll finally prove what you've got in terms of the grades that you have received and how you have actually understood the unit and what knowledge and skills that you have gained from the unit. Now, how does it exactly look like? That is what I want to show you now, just as an example. So when you do submit assignment, how is it received at our end? How is it marked? And what kind of feedback would you get from that marked assignment when you do submit it to us for a particular unit? So let me just open up one or two quick documents to show, and that would be the bits which I want to show you in terms of how the work essentially is submitted, how the work is essentially marked, and what you get back towards the end of it when you have submitted that work into us. So let me open a couple of documents, and then I would essentially show you the full screen so that you're able to see how that work is marked at our end.
Sorry, I want to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
The assignment submission subline is not on the model.
No, it's not on the Moodle, no.
So how can we have access to it?
What do you mean? How can you have access to it? When you do your assignment, you send an email to us, which is going to be a Word document that you create or a PowerPoint presentation as per the assignment brief. And once that is sent in to us, we will then respond back to you on the email to say, your work has been received, your work has been marked, here is the assessment, and here is the feedback on the assignment.
Because on the module we have a assignment sample format. Can it still help out?
So on the Moodle, what you have essentially at your end, if I open that up for you again, on every unit, you have an assignment brief.
Okay.
This is a sample for you to look at. This is just in case for some of us who are back to school after a number of years, what we want to be able to do is see how a sample assignment would have been submitted and how would it look like. But for each unit, there is an assignment brief at the end of the unit. This is the assignment brief that you would look at, and that would be the assignment that you would attempt to cover that particular unit.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you attempt the assignment and you submit it on to us on the email, a couple of things happen. One, we scan the document to see whether it is having plagiarism or is it having AI detection, things like that. Now, once that is done, at some stage, what we do then is mark your assignment. So the assignment is submitted to us with the number of tasks which are given in the assignment brief. And what we then do in the task is, so I've opened up a Unit 6 assignment because you're studying Unit 6 right now. And what we do is we do commenting on the right-hand side to see what you have covered in terms of evidence and how is that being covered. Is it detailed enough? Is it meeting the criteria set by the awarding body for that particular task? And if we feel that it is not meeting the criteria, it is shy of evidence or the evidence is brief, then you would get comments here to say you need to elaborate, you need to look at this, or you need to consider this. So guidelines in terms of directive comments would be given for you to make changes to the assignment or for that particular task. Now, This kind of a commenting that you receive from us will only be visible on a fuller device like a PC or a Mac or a laptop. You would not be able to see the comments on a phone and on a tablet because on the screen size is small. And in such cases, what will happen is you will just see a speech bubble. So when you click on the speech bubble, then the comment would be visible. But generally on mobile devices, it is not visible in terms of commenting. So when you get the assignment back, you normally see that labeled as feedback, which will be the document name. And that document is the document which will go back and forth between you and the lecturer till the time you achieve the grade or you achieve the assignment and achieve that particular unit. The commenting that we do is quite detailed, and that is done in this aspect to ensure that you are able to get good amount of guidance to be able to achieve the grade that you're trying to achieve in that particular unit. And when you look at the assignment, when we look at marking the assignment, assuming this was shy of not meeting a particular task, for example, 4.1. Now, what will happen is you would use the comments which have been given and make changes in the same assignment. And then when you add anything to the assignment, what you will do is basically highlight that in yellow, like this. The reason of highlighting that in yellow makes it easier for me as an assessor to identify that this is the comment that I'd given next to the task, and this is the additional material or the evidence which has been added by the learner. And that allows me to turn around, one, the feedback quickly, and second, to see whether that task has now been achieved or not. So you would not create a new document when you submit the assignment again, but use the same document which has the feedback word written on it. And this allows us to create a bit of a paper trail. When your assignment is looked after by the quality manager and looked after by the awarding organization, it is able to see that, okay, yes, there was a resubmission done. And the resubmission, as per the commenting provided by the assessor, has allowed the learner to be able to achieve that task and thereby achieve the overall grade. Is that understood?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the same document which will go back and forth, and that would allow you to achieve and make changes, and that at some stage would become the final document that you will have at your end as proof that you've completed this unit. And in addition to that, you'll have an assessment sheet which will say and justify why you have achieved this unit. And then towards the end of that assessment sheet, there'll be a grade provided, and there'll be a sign off, and this particular judgment would then be set in stone that you have achieved this unit and you've achieved it with this grade, and this is your proof at your end to say that I've completed, and now you can move on to the next one. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how the feedback and assessment process essentially works when you do submit an assignment at some stage, and you have to make sure that you use the same document when you're actually submitting the assignment back for the purposes of any revision which has been asked for by the assessor. Now, you have to keep in mind that in universities, there is no assignment resubmission. Either you pass the assignment or you fail the assignment. If you fail the assignment, then you are given a reset assignment to do, and the marks are capped at pass. So in the case of awarding bodies, the assignments can be submitted once, and you can have one feedback on it, and after that, your submission is considered final. You're not allowed to make multiple changes into the assignment, that I'll do my task 1, then submit task 1, get a feedback on it, then task 2, then get a feedback on it. No. It will mean that when you complete the unit, you complete and submit the entire assignment. In some cases, you would see assignment briefs would ask you to have a PowerPoint presentation. Task 1 would be a PowerPoint presentation. Task 2, 3, and 4 could be a Word document. In some cases, you would find task 1, 2, and 3 are Word documents. Task 4 could be a PowerPoint presentation. So when you do create a PowerPoint presentation, in some cases, the PowerPoint presentation can and have or will require you to put in speaker notes. And speaker notes on those presentations, just as an example, if I show you one presentation, the speaker notes on those presentations would essentially be put underneath the slides. So in some cases, this is obviously my teaching presentation, but I'm just giving an example. You would be required to produce PowerPoint slides and also maybe provide a Word document. And those two documents would then combine to form the full assessment for the unit. And in some cases, wherever you are required to do a PowerPoint presentation, then PowerPoint presentation essentially would need, you'd probably put some bullet points, some data on it, and the explanation of that slide could be put underneath in terms of the slides as speaker notes. Is that okay?
Okay.
Now,
Yes, thank you.
one last thing which I want to mention in regards to the qualification, which is to show you an exact example of how your diploma would be received, or how would it be essentially awarded at some stage. So when you complete your qualification, it takes about 3 to 5 working days for us to be able to issue your final certification. And the final certification that we normally issue would tend to be a 2-page transcript. The first part tends to be the award, and the second part is primarily going to be your a transcript which will show what units you have covered and what have you achieved in that particular unit as a grade. So this is how your qualification would look like when this is issued. And as I can suggest, that the first part is the award, the second part is your transcript. Now you can see that the learner has achieved overall merit in the qualification, because in some of the units, as you can see, the learner has achieved an overall merit, and that has tipped over the grade for the overall qualification to a merit grade. Is that okay? So that is why individual grades in your units are important. And in some cases, you have to look at the credits and you have to look at multipliers, because for pass it's 3, merit it's 4, and distinction it's 5. So the higher grade units contribute more points towards your overall grading. And that's why even if in some of the units the learner has achieved a pass and 4 units are merit, but the overall grade is tipped into a merit, and that's how your final qualification would look like. Okay.
Okay.
Good stuff. So we've come to the end of our induction session, and I hope this has given you detailed insights into the course, how the process works, what are the key people behind the teaching and learning side of things, administration side of things, and the systems that you would be using in order to do the course with us. At this stage, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Good stuff. So I hope this session has been useful and it has given you insight into how and where and who would you need to reach out to, just in case if you have any issues, problems, if you get stuck. But hopefully this session should also be giving you the confidence to say that you're in absolutely good hands as far as teaching and learning of the qualification is concerned, and hopefully you will be going past the finishing line in the next few weeks and months.
Yes.
Good stuff. So I will take leave, and hopefully we'll catch up with you over the next few days and weeks. And until then, enjoy the rest of your day, and then hopefully you'll get the recording of this presentation and the induction from Grace tomorrow morning.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessie.
Thank you.